but now you see why people are all skeptical, because if it's that easy in an area that doesn't have that many people that won by what, 250 votes, imagine having like 1,000 drop boxes. Who's going to monitor 1,000 drop boxes all across the country? This is from Elon Musk on X. So he's talking about the mail-in ballots here. So he quotes,
Oh no.
"When combined with mail-in ballots, the system is designed to make it impossible to prove fraud. Mail-in and drop box ballots should not be allowed, as cameras on the in-person voting stations would at least prevent large-scale fraud by counting how many people showed up versus ballots cast."
Yeah, it's ballot laundering.
Yeah, that's basically
It's ballot laundering because the way it works is they send it in, and then they strip the ballot of its addresses and its identifying marks, and its chain of custody gets all screwed up.
exactly
Right? And even if you do have chain of custody from the mailbox, who dropped it there? And what is the address that's on it?
right. We saw this all throughout the 2020 elections with the drop boxes. Actually, I've got a video here. You guys remember this woman from, I believe it was Connecticut?
Oh yeah.
Let's see.
Is
Mike
this
Tyson at 4:30, allegations of absentee ballot fraud in Bridgeport, all after video was leaked showing a woman stuffing envelopes into the ballot drop box. A lot of people have a lot of questions now. Channel 3 New Haven Bureau Chief Matt McFarland is live with our mobile newsroom in Bridgeport with what he's learning. Matt.
No, look here, there's been some protesters out here, but you can see the ballot box right behind me here at the government center, and then also the camera, the surveillance camera that caught this act. The challenger, John Gomes, claims this election was stolen. The Secretary of the State is actually going to hold a press conference in about an hour addressing the allegations of absentee ballot fraud. Now, the video posted to John Gomes' campaign Facebook page shows a woman whom he claims to be a supporter of Mayor Joe Ganim and a City Hall employee stuffing envelopes into the absentee ballot drop box outside the government center a number of times in the early morning hours of September 5th. Gomes lost last week's Democratic primary to Ganim by just 251 votes. On election night, Gomes had a lead thanks to the in-person voting at the polls, but the absentees...
This guy looks like he's straight out of the mob.
Yo, Tony, you gonna stuff that ballot or what?
Oh, we're gonna stuff your face.
Stuff your face.
which Ganim won by nearly a 2-to-1 margin, pushed him over the top. It should be noted, according to the Secretary of the State's office, only a voter, a designee of a voter who has an illness or a disability or a family member is allowed to mail or put a ballot in a drop box.
He's got a lot of family.
Yeah. So I think what ended up happening was there was so much fraud that they couldn't tell how many votes were real and how many were fake. So they actually had to redo the entire election. They had to redo the whole thing. You know,
who went to jail? The real question is, who went to jail?
Nobody.
That's right.
No. I think she was in court. I remember, and then when they went to answer all the questions, she was like, "I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth." You're basically pleading guilt at that point by doing so.
Yeah, just don't go on the stand. Just be like, I'm not going on the stand.
I wouldn't even show up, because now everybody knows your face and knows who you are, you know. And then,
but then you're in contempt of court and all those things, right?
Exactly. But now you see why people are all skeptical, because if it's that easy in an area that doesn't have that many people that won by what, 250 votes, imagine having like 1,000 drop boxes. Who's going to monitor 1,000 drop boxes all across the country? Then who's going to monitor the drop boxes being picked up and then taken to their designated location? Now, some of them...
Dinesh D'Souza figured out how to do it in
yeah,
retrospect to 2,000 Mules. You
Mhm.
know, all that data that we complain about. We were talking about Louis Rossman earlier, right? Guess what? All that data that these companies gavel up on you. Every one of those little muley boys and gals that walked around and stuffed ballots throughout the election, they had their phones with them. And guess what you can do? You can purchase geolocation data.
Yes, you could.
And then you can correlate it. all you have to do is pick some spots on the map and go, okay, I want to see, which of these phones with their anonymous, they're anonymized, so called, but police cases over and over and over again have
Yep.
used that. That's how they track J6 people. So it's good enough to track J6, the defendants, but it's not good enough to prove election fraud.
Crazy.
But we shouldn't have to track them. That's the point. It should be at the ballot, at the polls, with minimal exception to that rule, right? You got people overseas in the military, absentee ballots for that. You're up in a hospital bed somewhere, like, fine. But, like, none of this mail-in, And then the lady, was it not that long ago, we had a clip of a lady who was at I don't know, some kind of open hearing. She was a poll watcher, and she noticed that there were multiple ballots, mail-in ballots, mind you, in consecutive order that came in. That would be like you and all of your friends and their friends and their friends got together, and they all bought from hot dogs in my hot dog stand, and every single one of your guys' dollar bills in cash was a consecutive note on a serial number.
Yeah. Remember that? And she was like, this is theoretically impossible.
Right.
Even two numbers is nearly impossible.
They
Nonetheless,
were
three?
they were alphabetically in order by name. That's what it was. They were all alphabetically, perfectly in order, brand new ballots.
Yeah, and then when she tried to say something, they almost threw her out of there. Like, it's crazy. I think that in this election, if anybody tells you to leave and you are a ballot watcher, refuse, get arrested. Get arrested. And if you see 50,000 people getting arrested, that right there will send shock waves.
I think more people need to know about the Battle of Athens. If you don't know about the Battle of Athens, you need to look up Count Dankula. Mad Lads. I think it was Mad Lads. I don't know if it was his Mad Lads, but if the Battle of Athens in his video on that will give you not only informative data, but it will be hilarious. And the Battle of Athens was a whole bunch of war vets that came home to this little town in, I think it was Tennessee, somewhere in the east, mid, south-ish. And the town was corrupt. While they were over fighting World War II, their own hometown was being taken over by corruption in the sheriff's department and everything. And they literally had a fight in the street over the ballots. It was literally over the ballot boxes. Go look it up. Battle of Athens.
Will do. All right, and to close this off on our first episode of Sunset Rants, we are going to go over. Looks like this is Wall Street Apes, and he says, quote, "The 2024 election is going to be the most rigged election in history. All they have to do is check a box on a form and sign their name. That's it. That is all that's required." I guess he's talking about for illegal immigrants coming across.
Mm-hmm.
Speaker Mike Johnson says, quote, "We now have so many non-citizens in the country that if only 1 out of every 100 of those voted, it would cast hundreds of thousands of votes. If a nefarious actor wants to intervene in our elections, all they have to do is check a box on a form, sign their name. That's it. That's all that's required. Illegals voting. Democrat told us that it's impossible, but there are no federal requirements for states to verify citizenship of voters before they register. In New York State, for example, you can register to vote without an ID, without a social security number, and as long as you have a utility bill or a paycheck or a government housing slip. And remember, if they get caught, whoops, I didn't know it was illegal, charges dropped. And who's really trying to catch them anyway? And where do they get caught? Catch them after the election? Joe Biden let 10 plus million illegal aliens in this country. The Washington Times has done extensive reporting on this and found, in fact, that there are quite a few cases of illegals who have actually been caught voting illegally in elections. We don't know how many because Democrats work very, very hard to conceal that number to start with. I think it's important to highlight an important point that you just made a minute ago, which is Democrats say, well, the reason we don't need to worry about this is because it's illegal for them to vote. Well, it's illegal for illegals to be illegally in the United States in the first place. And we have millions of them here. How long is this? Yeah. So I guess the whole point is that if you're going to enter this country initially by breaking the law, what makes you think that you won't do that? I mean, look at all the people that have been killed since since this insurgence by illegal aliens. I mean, it has skyrocketed over the last couple of years.
Well, Arizona is one of those states where it's a very big good possibility this could happen too, because they have a law where if you swear you're a U.S. citizen but you have no proof, we won't let you vote in Arizona because you can't prove you're an Arizona citizen, but we'll give you a federal-only ballot. So, Arizona, I want to know, how many federal-only ballots are you submitting?
That's going to be it right there.
And I think they should be thrown out. All of them. Somebody should be filing a lawsuit in preempt states against Arizona. Just like, what's the one state that's currently in a lawsuit against New York over the Trump stuff?
Oh, Missouri.
Missouri?
Mhm.
Yeah. So your AGs need to start filing lawsuits against Arizona and say, look, you can't allow just anybody to come into your state and get a federal ballot, and then you chalk them up.
Yeah, because that doesn't just affect them. That affects us as well.
Yeah,
that affects me.
This is worse than the fact that when people come across our border into states that are sanctuary states or any state, now what's happening in the states that are, when they do a census, they're counting just people that are there, not even just citizens. It's anybody that exists in the state. Those states that are sanctuary, they're going to boost their population numbers and not just gain representatives in the House, but they will take representatives from others because they're distributed by proportion.
Yeah, by population.
This is actually worse than that, because now not only do you get representatives in the House, but now you also get votes to just stuff the general election, so that way you can vote for whoever you want in the House. You know, maybe not from that side, but like anybody that's running at the federal level that you can vote for, like that's what is that? That's basically just the president. You don't
go ahead.
That's all I'm saying, is like you could just stuff as many ballots as you can with people from anywhere. I could go to Arizona and swear I'm a U.S. citizen and get a federal only.
Right. I have a neutral statement. So let's take away Democrat and Republican. Okay. And imagine this scenario. Imagine a bunch of illegal aliens go into one state, right? And let's say it's the state of Utah. No. Let's not use. That's a bad example. Let's stick with Arizona. Okay. Could you imagine if all of these immigrants come in and they all vote for El Chapo?
They do. They just.
You're gonna let El Chapo be your president?
El Presidente.
El Presidente, and not the beer.
Nope.
Like seriously, think about that. Or you get all these Chinese nationalists that cross over, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, you've got like a write-in campaign for, I don't know, for governor. What do you do then? Because now they're elected.
Well, California already lets illegals vote in local elections. I believe if not, they've been pushing for it. I know in some places, if you live in a particular township or county, they let you vote in issues concerning the local schools. You know, because their kids go there is what they say. It's like, well, your kids go here, you should be able to vote for it. Well, it's like, well, guess what? If you live here and you're not a U.S. citizen and your kids are going to our taxpayer-funded schools, not that I'm an advocate of them, though my kids do go to them, you know, it's kind of hard to take your kids out of a public school when you've been public schooled yourself. I'm just saying.
Exactly.
But nonetheless, like, don't you think you should have some skin in the game as a citizen if you're going to make decisions upon our policies?
They don't realize it's just gonna bite them, and it's going to bite you in the ass, just like France. Just like France. That's what happens when you have ultimate corruption. And that's the whole reason why I said before, I'll say it again, there is no argument that anyone has that's against the Electoral College. Now, that right there proved why we need it. And there's no argument against it. Don't even try. You will lose.
The what's the camp, or what's the city, the immigrant shantytown thing in Texas? I forget what it's called, but we were talking about it earlier on the Discord, and it's a place where I think 7 months ago there was some there were some articles in different newspapers.
Colony Ridge.
Yeah, Colony Ridge is like a 60 square mile piece of land that some developers bought, and they're just basically giving it to. They're called direct loans with no down payment. You don't need ID. You don't need a credit check. You don't need nothing. Zero. And it's squalor. And it's right north of Houston. Actually, I wonder if there's any updates on north of Houston right now, because they just had a hurricane go through there.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
I wouldn't mind if some of those, I don't wish harm on people, but I wouldn't mind if that place got a little less, livable. Any deterrent to this crap is good in my book, but,
Yeah, he
this
says
is a
that
thing.
Joseph Trimmer said that it was true.
Yeah, Joseph Trimmer is our Texas correspondent when it comes to the illegal immigrant crisis. We really need him on board on some future shows. I have to set him up on a schedule here.
Absolutely.
He does some great work.